to say that without putting down. Because TikTok and Sway Boys, I think they're like...
Who are the Sway Boys?
They're, exactly. So you created something during this pandemic that like I found so inspiring across the country to see. I couldn't access New York City, I was so far away. You're not supposed to fly. Right. And I wanted to know what was happening to these small businesses that I cared so much about.
Nick Heller, an independent filmmaker better known as New York Nico,
dubbed the unofficial talent scout of New York City.
Through the pandemic, he has now made it his focus to help small businesses survive.
Just one post can change the direction of someone's life.
I knew at the beginning of the pandemic that once the city started to reopen, that they would really need our help. And I made a promise to myself that I would go really hard just pushing these businesses like one by one once they started opening back up. And the first one that I brought it back for was the Army Navy bag store, which is on Houston Street. And it's this small, very small Army Navy surplus store.
Henry! Oh, Henry! Oh my God!
That's owned by this great guy named Henry Yao. You know, I'd been in there a few times. I wasn't like a regular by any means. I wasn't friends with Henry, but I knew that the community loved him and probably didn't know that he was suffering so much. So I did this little profile on him, posted it on Instagram. Another customer of his created this GoFundMe to help him with back rent. And yeah, like within a few hours, like it reached its goal. There was like a line around the block. But most importantly, and this sounds corny, but most importantly, and he'll tell you this, is the fact that he didn't understand how loved he was by the community.
Oh,
and
wow.
once he read like all of these comments, that just gave him so much joy. The business owners, they do have stories. They don't necessarily know how to tell them, but that's why I guess people like us who can help with that are important. You know, like I was able to share Henry's story. I was able to share the story of Astor Place. I was able to share the story of Grandma Dawn, who's the 80-year-old owner of this toy store in Harlem. You know, it goes on and on. They all have amazing stories. If you've been in business in New York for 30 plus years, you're bound to have insane stories.
Right, you've accrued a library of stories.
Right.
What advice do you have for someone who's trying to use their creativity for good? Can we use this force that we have, all these like this group, this community of storytellers that's here to do good?
Like you use your creativity and use your social media outlets to say, look at this amazing place. They need our help right now. And because of that, I know you don't like to take credit for it, but it's a lot of your hard work they survived. Now what Jack and what 368 and what Adobe and what GoFundMe are doing is they're creating something that is essentially scaling that idea. Can they lean into the creativity of these creators? Can they lean into the fascinating stories that these small businesses have to connect those two things and share a story and shine a light on what these businesses are doing? No one knows small businesses in New York City as well as you do. Like, what advice do you have for creators? Like, what is the New York City Nico tip that you give to these filmmakers?
Well, a lot of people hit me up and say, Nico, like I want to help small businesses, but I don't have a large following like you. Like, what can I do? And I don't think you need a large following to help push these businesses. I think creativity is more important. You know, a friend of mine, Aaron Wiggs, you know, he doesn't have a lot of followers, but he created something this past summer. He did sidewalk sales where he got his community together, all of his friends, to donate clothes. And every weekend he would have like a sidewalk sale where he would sell clothes and raise money for small businesses, nonprofits. And this is just someone who, like, you know, doesn't have the social media following, but he is persistent and determined and has kind of like cultivated this network of like-minded people who want to help. So that's just like a perfect example of someone who doesn't have a large following who is able to make a difference through creativity and community.
We were talking about this idea that everybody's a creator. Jack, give me one of the motion graphics templates here. you can use tools like this, and you're creating a piece of content for a business that business can use, and they can leverage that content however they want. And I think that's the magic. Like, I think advertising, as we know it, is sort of dead. What people want is they want a story. And tools that are available today, tools that Adobe makes, enable creators to do that in a really simplified way. And I think like that's a lot of the magic of this project, is that ultimately the goal here is to bring attention to these small businesses, but the tools that enable that to happen, enable it to happen in a way that would have been very difficult and very expensive in years past. That's a special thing.
It's great because now everyone has the opportunity to be a creator, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be a successful creator or a good creator. Like, it's still, you know, creativity is still integral, you know, now more than ever, even though it's so convenient to get your hands on, you know, your tools.
Yeah, it's almost
So
like the tools have gotten out of the way.
Right.
And now it's just about your
Right,
creativity.
right.
Like, we've reached that like pinnacle.
Right.
Where it's I think it's pure.
Yeah.
Like the elitism of like having to be able to afford all this expensive equipment, it's gone.
Sure.
You've built like this amazing thing, and you do it with just a cell phone.
Right.
Nico, when did you first meet Casey?
I must have just like seen you around or encountered you in 368 because I was interning for Peg Leg, which was a clothing company that shared an office with Casey. I think down the hall was like the Team Facelift office. We had you, Alex Kalman, Safdie's.
I don't know if you knew this, but Lena Dunham.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's on the 4th floor.
Wow, I didn't know that.
There are so few places left especially in Manhattan, where like you can get real estate at a reasonable price, where you can like get just kind of like a up room to do whatever you need to do in it, whether it's Peg Leg, it's a clothing company, or you're like a filmmaker, you're a painter, or you're a sculptor, whatever it might be. And this building is one of those places.
Right.
So I think because of that, it's not as interesting to people who are like real estate agents. It's not as interesting to personal injury lawyers. But to some kid who's like, I need a place to make my art, this is where they come.
Right.
And I think that has sort of become this beacon, this lighthouse for creative, aspiring, like curious people. And I think by default that has yielded this community that's super rich. And this place, like 368, is a literal manifestation of that. It's saying like, this is happening. Let's embrace it. Let's build something around that. I think 368 or companies like 368 could be these entities wherein people who have dreams of becoming a YouTuber can solicit resources and become part of something bigger than just themselves and ultimately realize their ambition.
Yeah, I mean, I never really had a community space. My community space is the city. Am I supposed to be looking at him or you or both? Okay. I never had like a community space. My community space is the city because like that's my office. Like I don't have an office. I literally just walk around and, you know, do my work on the street. You know, like on my phone, I'll meet up with people. We'll walk around. I'll come up with ideas. After seeing your daily vlogs, I was like, damn, like I wish I had a camera with me all the time because I'm doing like wild shit every day too, but I just don't have the energy for that. But yeah, every day, just like, you never know what's gonna happen. An example, like the other day, I just walked outside, didn't expect to meet anybody, saw this guy with his shirt off, just staring directly into the sun.
I saw that.
And I was like, I went up to him after he was done like zenning out. I was like, dude, were you just looking directly into the sun? And he told me about how he likes to stare into the sun, you know, like everything we've heard is a lie. Staring into the sun is actually good for you. It's just like, it gets right into your bloodstream and helps your circulation, blah, blah, blah. But then he started talking about how he was super famous 15 years ago for being, quote unquote, the king of pimps. He was like the first person to start an escort service online and was sent to prison for 7 years for doing so. And then like he was telling me his story and I was like, this should be like a Safdie Brothers movie, you know, like this guy is amazing. And
plus, Staring at the Sun is a great name for a movie.
I was thinking about doing a short film on this guy and I was like, the man who stares at the sun. But anyway, if I don't have anything planned, I'll just walk the city and will just happen,
Right.
and it's great.
You spend a lot of time with these random characters that you interact with, but you also spend a lot of time interacting with creators.
Yeah, I mean, even these random people are creators. Like, Tiger Hood is a random dude who I met 5 years ago playing golf with milk containers on the street, and it turns out that he's an insanely skilled photographer and has a crazy collection of film photographs from like the late 90s, early 2000s. You know, he's become a close friend and we create things on the daily. But then there's like more conventional creators like, you know, Side Talk, who I see probably every day because they're just like my buddies who I can walk the city with, and we have so many similarities, so it's just like, you know, just fun to walk around with them.
I think one thing that I always took for granted is like, especially when I was like putting out a lot of videos on YouTube, I would get so many like aspiring creators contacting me being like, I don't know what to make videos about. Where do I begin? And I would always sort of almost dismissively say, only in retrospect do I see it as dismissive, but I would dismissively say like, just step outside.
Yeah.
Just find some interestingness. Just make a movie about anything.
Yeah.
Because that's how I approach my entire like filmmaking career. There's always a story to be told. And I think that like you talk about a creator community, I think that like, I don't know if it was the chicken or the egg. I don't know if like the interestingness is what attracted the creators, or the creators are the ones that are helping tell the story of, or finding this interestingness. But to me, like that is like this vein that courses
Yeah.
the lifeblood through this city. It's just that there's a story everywhere you look.
Right. What would your daily vlogs look like if you were to do it in LA?
You know, I don't know. I think that it'd probably be much more introspective. It'd be much more like looking at me.
Right.
And I feel like the content that I made living in New York City was sort of my eyes looking out in the world.
Right.
And I don't know that I could do that anywhere else. I
Right.
think anywhere else I would probably default to something much more like, this is me, and this is how I, you know, this is looking in at me. I always thought that my daily vlog was about me and my life, and when I go back and look at them now, there's one thing that's abundantly clear, which is like, no. Those are just my perspective.
Right.
On the world that I live in. And the world that I live in is New York City. Something that I think you do that I never had like the comfort or maybe even the confidence to do in my daily videos that you do so well is I would always capture a lot of these New York City characters, but I never had the gumption to interact with them the way you interact with them. I think this Adobe GoFundMe project is really about that intimate interaction.
Right.
It's not just about saying this is what this business does, it's introducing the world to the people behind these small businesses.
Right.
What's the advice? What do you know about connecting with these New York City characters that you could impart on the filmmakers working with Jack on this project?
Well, you have to be genuinely interested in them and care for them. Otherwise, they won't feel comfortable with you. You know, like everyone who I put on my page is someone who I admire in some form or fashion. So yeah, you just have to like have a genuine fascination with the people that you're interested in profiling, and it'll come through for sure.